We now move to First Minister's question time. Question number 1, Joanne Lamont.
Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. To ask the First Minister what engagements he has planned for the rest of the day.
First Minister.
I'm sure the whole Chamber, Presiding Officer, wish to join with me in congratulating Perth on achieving city status. Later today, I'll have meetings to take forward the Government's programme for Scotland.
Joanne Lamont.
Thank you very much. Can the First Minister explain why Scottish families today are facing some of the highest childcare costs in Europe, while his government offers less help than Nick Clegg?
First Minister.
Well, as Joanne Lamont knows, in the last term of office we took the free availability of childcare in Scotland from the 425 hours we inherited to 475 hours, and I'm sure she'll welcome the pledge which will go into legislation to make sure it's available to everyone in Scotland, across all areas of Scotland, to move that to 600 hours, which will give us the best package of childcare and preschool facilities of any country in these islands.
Joanne Lamont. Joanne Lamont.
I note the First Minister didn't answer the question of why we're still in the place that we are, but nothing new there. On Saturday, the First Minister, who has of course never knowingly undersold his own position, as he said, promised the best package of free nursery education on offer anywhere in the United Kingdom. Just not yet. Nothing new here then. We heard this same pledge in the SNP manifesto in 2007. Remember that one, filed in the fiction section of a library near you. We know what happened. We know what happened with that pledge. Promised in 2007, dumped by Mike Russell in 2009. The First Minister repackaged it on Saturday, and we need to wait until after the referendum in 2014 before he delivers it. Why has he failed to deliver on his own pledge? Why has he let Scottish families and Scottish children down?
First Minister.
Well, can I say to Joanne Lamont, our ability to deliver on the programme was judged by the people of Scotland last year in an election. And can I just correct her on the costs? And she said that I didn't answer her question directly. She's wrong in terms of the costs across these islands. The nursery 2 years and over, the average in England is £103.19. The average in Scotland is £101.49. Nursery under 2 is £94.52 in Scotland, £98.75. Now, these are very substantial childcare costs. And one of the arguments that's put forward, I think persuasively, is that it's a function of the supply and affordability, which can drive up costs in certain instances. And therefore, the more publicly funded childcare and preschool that's on offer, then that will have two great beneficial effects. Firstly, it will help the families who are getting that availability of childcare and nursery, and secondly, it will help to drive down costs in terms of other provisions. So the judgment of the people of Scotland in terms of the ability of a minority SNP government over 4 years was made in the May election. The judgment of the people of Scotland on the Labour Party's attitude was also made last year in May. So I would hope that even if on so many issues Joanne Lamont cannot bring the Labour Party into a more positive position, at least on this issue, she will now commit to supporting the legislation which will enshrine this in law, which will make available 600 hours to the families across Scotland.
If we were in power in 2007, we would now be in a position that the rest of them. And I can assure you, if you had worked out how important public provision was, perhaps you might have acted a little earlier rather than now. We worked out this a long time ago, because what families need is action now, not a clause in a children's bill and not a 2 years delay. Families don't need legislation in the future. They need a government now which will provide the funding to deliver reliable and affordable childcare when people need it. The First Minister has the power now. Why does he not exercise it? On Saturday, the First Minister promised a bill, and it might be news to him, but working families all over Scotland already have a bill for childcare, and it's a pretty expensive one. Families need this support now. Why do we have to wait another 2 years for the First Minister to put a clause in a bill, never mind actually delivering what people need?
First Minister.
If the Labour Party was so keen on this issue, then why on earth didn't they implement it in the 8 years they were in power? Why did we inherit 425 hours, which we increased to 475 hours? And if after 8 years, when Joanne Lamont was a minister, only then did Labour decide...
Order, we'll hear the First Minister, please.
Well, I'm not surprised, presiding officer, don't want to hear this, because it's inconvenient to have to remind them of the dreadful record of the Labour Party government. But if after the 8 years there was a conversion in 2007, which if only the Labour Party had been re-elected, they would have implemented, then why didn't they implement it south of the border where they were still in government? The record of the Labour Party up to 2007 in government was judged by the Scottish people harshly. The record of the Labour Party in opposition to 2011 was judged by the Scottish people even more harshly. And one of the key reasons for that dramatic failure when Joanne Lamont was the deputy leader of the party was their total, absolute negativity. So can they please bring themselves at this stage to welcome an announcement to take the childcare provision to 600 hours to benefit every single family across every area of Scotland?
Joanne Lamont.
If that's the First Minister being positive about me, God help me when he decides to start turning on me. The reality is that I, never mind as a minister, as a mother for 8 years, got the benefit of what Labour did on child. And indeed, in Glasgow now, with a Labour Council, we've got the benefit of those hours.
We will hear the member. Order.
What we have here is another episode of the Manana government. Excuses today, jam not even tomorrow, but in 2 years' time, maybe. Working families are struggling now, and the First Minister simply doesn't get it. Fewer children in nursery, after-school clubs closing down, and the childcare on offer simply not meeting their needs. The First Minister said on Saturday, "In devolved Scotland, we can demand. In an independent Scotland, we can deliver." That was obviously for the children at the back there. Because it's so predictable. So predictable. Because you see, what he really meant is that he won't deliver until he gets his way in a referendum. Talk about an abuse of power. Because the reality is, for the First Minister, this issue is not actually about childcare, it's about what really gets him excited, and that's the Constitution. Well, in this devolved Scotland, families can't wait, won't wait, and we insist that he delivers for Scottish families now. Will the First Minister take this issue seriously, take the people of this country seriously, and act now to help Scottish families?
First Minister.
Well, I've often said to Joanne Lamont that
First Minister.
Move off script. After that, I think perhaps you should stay on script in the future. I don't think that Glasgow Council is Joanne Lamont's strongest suit at the present moment. You're losing councillors in Glasgow even quicker than you lost votes in the Scottish election. If what we inherited from Labour was so wonderful, then why did the last minority SNP government, as part of the Concordat with Scottish local government, have to increase the provision from 425 hours, which we inherited, to 475 hours? And in terms of looking forward, I was complimented, of course, about the 18 mentions of myself and Joanne Lamont's speech at the Labour Party conference 2 weeks ago, but I think it's rather better to lay out policies as we did at our conference on the 2,500 young people to give them a life opportunity, the £10 million additional Commonwealth Games legacy fund, that every SNP council in Scotland will introduce the living wage as the SNP government has done, and to put into legislation to give that guarantee to families across Scotland of 600 hours of childcare and pre-nursery education.